the problem with Jackson Jobe is always going to be that he was taken third overall, and he was taken ahead of some other guys that people wanted. Because if you strip all of that away and you look at a 19, 20-year-old who had some struggles in full season ball and then got better as the season went along and has a mid 90s fastball and a slider that flashes double plus and the makings of an above average changeup, you'd go, hey, that's a pretty damn good prospect. But the problem is he started so high that he's not this instantly elite Andrew Painter type that who was in the same draft. That yeah, it's just a matter of perspective. It's a huge year for Jobe, I think, in his development. I'd love to see him take a step or two forward, but I think everything that made him enticing to the Tigers is still there. It's just he was just way more raw than either they realized or certainly that they sold to us, right? And I brought this up a ton of times. They talked about him being the most advanced, or more advanced than Josh Beckett at the same age, which was just always hogwash. But
just stuff like the professional pitchers were calling him for advice on their slider, that kind of thing. I go, okay.
Yeah, this is a kid who again was barely a pitcher even in high school. He was a shortstop up until the summer between his junior and senior year, like primary shortstop. He pitched a little, so you just got to give him time. And I think that he's still on that list despite getting knocked around in low A ball is a testament to his pure talent. And we paid attention. We saw him get roughed up down in the minors in low A, and then he got better over the course of the season, which is something that you want to see. There's still a long way to go, but I don't know. He's on most of the top 100 lists that are out there. So, but again, a lot of that is still draft pedigree. We'll see what he can do this year.
I'm going to ask, what improvements do you think he needs to make this year? What do you think is going to help him shoot up those lists to eventually become maybe a top 50, top 25 prospect? What improvements do you think he needs to make?
I think let him loose in terms of letting innings a little bit. Hopefully, you see more innings of their own. You want to see more swing and miss. I mean, the swing and miss stuff is there, but more on a consistent basis. And he's not chasing or not nibbling so much. I think he starts the year at West Michigan. To me, it's a full year at West Michigan. And if he starts like Wilmer Flores did last year, then maybe move him to Double A. But I don't think there's no rush to it because if you look at Double A right now, you have Dylan Smith, Ty Madden's probably going to start the year there. Then you have Brent Hurdler. Then you have, I feel like I'm missing somebody. A couple. You can
Montero could be there.
Yeah, Montero.
I fully expect Jobe to start in West Michigan again, unless something goes disastrously wrong. I wouldn't expect him to show up in camp and then get boosted to Erie. I think basically what gets you pushed up prospect lists as a pitcher is dominance. Like, people don't look at these pitchers and go, hey, that's a bunch of good stuff. Let's push him up if you've got like a 6 ERA. So he has to go out. And that was the one thing he never really did last year. He was never truly dominant. And I think a lot of that had to do with him, just becoming a pitcher. His pitches were all kind of separate. They didn't work together. He was still learning how to throw his fastball. Despite having a super high spin fastball, it's not, an ideal shape, as it were, the vertical approach angle and all that stuff. And the slider it will show you really, really good. But a lot of times it wasn't there. He didn't have his best slider every time. And some of that is going to be feel and repetition. And and toward the end of the year, I thought his changeup was his most consistent secondary pitch. That's a good sign for a guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think learning how to use all his pitches in conjunction with one another and tighten up the command a little bit, because his fastball has plenty of velocity. If he can learn how to locate it a little bit better, it should be okay. It shouldn't be a disastrous pitch for him. So just incremental improvements along those areas, and if he takes big steps on those areas, he could dominate and get to Double A or even Triple A if things go great. But I don't know. I'm expecting 18 starts in West Michigan, and then maybe a cup of coffee in Erie at the end of the year.